Okay, it's been a few months, but it's time to take another look at this Sherwood RV-6030R. You might have seen part 1. If you haven't, there'll be a link in the description below. In this video, I intend to test the audio output and to see if it's doing all the right things, mainly with its front channel. It's only really, technically it's high-powered 2-channel with a lower-powered rear speakers. I don't think you could class this as a proper surround sound, or more of a faux surround sound type receiver. In fact, it actually calls itself AV stereo receiver, so there's nothing really surround sound with this. I don't think there's any onboard processing. As far as I know, I think it does do, it's just Dolby and Pro Logic. Doesn't mention anything about DTS or any of that. It's just run-of-the-mill, very early home theater sort of amp. It does have A and B channels, so you can have 2 sets of speakers, either driven at the same time or separately, but we're just going to concentrate, well, we only really need to concentrate on one because this is the same power amp that will drive both anyway, so it's all good. It's just internally switched through a relay. So moving on, just quickly knocked up this power resistor. This will basically take the place of the speakers, purely for testing purposes, to make sure we can really drive these outputs and see if this old amp's up to snuff as far as that's concerned. I do wish to note that these 8 ohm power resistors are rated to 100 watts each, so I think we can actually cover the output pretty well. Although I think this is 100 watts, I'll have to check the book, but if it is, I will flick a picture on the screen now so we can see that. But yeah, this will do. This will do for now as far as testing. We are going to use a 1 kilohertz sine wave from a function generator and just drive this fairly hard and look at the waveform on an oscilloscope just to see that the output is clean and matches basically what the input is without colouring it too much. So without further delay, let's get stuck into it. I will wire it all up and then we'll start the testing. Okay, now that the oscilloscope and amp and the load has now been all connected, I'm just going to configure the function generator or the signal generator. So we want to run a 1000 hertz, updates automatically straight away, 1000 hertz signal, and we want to max the input level. So this particular model, I believe, has a 200 millivolt input. We'll keep it at a 50% duty cycle. And yeah, we'll run with that and see what the results are. Okay, we'll get the camera set up on the amp and oscilloscope and we'll start dialing in some numbers and see what happens. Okay, everything's on except for the amplifier, but everything seems to be washed out, so I'll just turn this light off. Okay, now you can probably see the oscilloscope a bit better and the function generator off to the side there, but that's probably less interesting than what's happening up here. So we'll turn on the amplifier. Hopefully it still works from last time I repaired it. So far so good. Now we are connected to the CD input. We are seeing something here, but that's not set up yet. Just double check that input. I'm pretty sure I'm on the CD, yep. So the 1 kilohertz signal is now being put into the CD input. We want to determine what's happening. I'm just going to set the oscilloscope up so it runs with the parameters we're trying to measure. So we want the time base down to probably, let's say we want milliseconds. There is some sort of arcing coming from the inside of the unit. What is that? Huh. There's like a small relay clicking coming from the back of the front panel. Hear that? Now it's all dead. Ah, well that's not good. Let's come back on again. We've got some sort of connection issue with this side of the front panel. The bass and treble knobs down here, probably can't see them with the light. I'll just pop that light back on. If we move these sort of and touch them ever so gently, you can hear that clicking, and they both seem to be doing it. Only with these two. But if you manipulate the front panel, like put a bit of, lift it a bit there. Yeah, look at that. Have we got a poor connection between, does the front panel have an earth? Like a ground? It's all just cut out. Well, that's really odd. It's a big thud when you turn the unit on. Off again. Interesting. I think we have a connection issue to the front panel, or at least to the logic on the front panel. I think we may have to tear this down and investigate that first before we can do any testing. That's extremely interesting. Well, I guess this is going to turn into a further repair video. Oh well, I'll reconfigure here, and we'll pull the front end down and we'll have a look at what's going on. But there is definitely something going on. If we turn the unit back on and we just manipulate the physical portion of the front face, and all I'm doing is just manipulating it, there is definitely it's towards this end, and it turns off. Yep. Let me just listen to that close up. It's turned off again. Awesome, we've got another repair. I was really hoping to test it. I thought that was the last issue. It's not the same issue as before. I mean, we are powering up, but we're not keeping powered up, and there is definitely something going on. Let's investigate. So this is the next day. I left the video last night because it got fairly late. So I guess what's left to do now is disassemble the test rig and open this old thing up again and see if we can find out what's going on with that front panel. Hopefully it's an easy fix. It's probably just a dry joint, or maybe a dicky connection, a mechanical screwed connection or something like that. But I guess we find out once we pull it down. So in the words of Big Clive,
one moment please.
okay, now that the unit has its top cover off, I've positioned the unit so we can see at least the front face, and the problem area being here, and the cabling in that sort of vicinity. What I want to achieve is put power back into it and just concentrate on this portion, manipulating the cabling just on its own, and see whether or not we can induce that fault again, and then sort of narrow down where the problem might be. So I've just got the mains on now, so we should have a standby light. Just look, yep, standby's on, and now we'll just turn it on. So far so good, the displays come up. And now, just using my spudger here, I'm just going to go through and manipulate wires and cables and just see if we can get that fault to occur again. There's a 3-pin plug just down the back here. Can't seem to think, no, that doesn't seem to be doing anything. Right. Okay, so it's all shut down again and back into standby. And it was something to do with these singular wires or cables up here, which seem to be going off down the back of this front PCB and around the heatsink and down the back of the board. So I do think we've got a problem connection in this area. So we'll just do that and see if we can repeat the fault. Okay, unit is on. And we'll just manipulate these cables here again. Yep. It's turned off. So right, I'm convinced that we've started to narrow down the problem area. So what I'll do is I'll reposition the camera and you can have a look at exactly what's going on, and hopefully you can listen in via my microphone and see what I'm seeing. Okay, so now we're looking at directly behind the problem area, and we'll try and invoke that fault again. So we'll turn the unit on, wait for it to do its thing. There we go. And we'll start lifting these 3 or 4 cables here. See, just the slightest movement. See if you can listen to it. Try not to disturb anything else. Off. Okay, well, just going to try one more time, and I'm going to manipulate this ribbon cable and see what happens there. Okay, on we go. This may impact these leads here, which are the fault. Okay, straight away it turned off. So I'm thinking it could be any one of these now. All right, at least we've sort of narrowed it down. So what I'll do now is pull the face off. Hopefully it's only a few screws. There seems to be a couple just here. Don't know if you can see that. Oh, there's one. And then there's one just below there. I'll just move the camera for you. Yeah, those two. There's the same on the other side, and there may be a couple through the bottom of the chassis, but we'll go with that and see if we can separate that front panel and get a closer look. Definitely that main board for the power volume knob. I'll just bring you in and have a closer look. So you can see this PCB in here, and it's moving with the whole front face. We may have to disconnect all the leads going to that before we have any hope of separating the front panel. At least enough to sort of flip it around and on top of the unit so we can get a better look at all the connections. So I'll concentrate on doing that off camera now and report back. after a massive visual inspection to see if there's any problems with the grounding or whatnot throughout, but then I can't test it until I've connected everything back up again. So it's going to be quite a pain in the ass to diagnose, but we can do what we can do. Right. That has now separated the front unit. Okay, now the process is to do a full visual inspection and see if we can determine what's going on, because it didn't take much of the movements of these wires, these cables, to make the unit cut out. Don't know whether it's a broken wire. I don't know why there would be, because these cables don't ordinarily move. They're not part of a moving mechanism, they're all fixed. It could be dry joints on the connectors. It could be anything really. So I'll give this a good going over, at least visually. And if I spot anything of note, I'll report back. So I was just going through the different signals, making sure that, you know, these pins are all okay and there's no dry joints. Then I come across the exact reason why we've got problems with this machine. I'm getting the bum steer. So I was dreading lifting up this little shield because I thought, what could it be? Can the problem exist under there? Don't know, but you know what? I've come this far and stripped this unit down that I thought, well, no, it's going to be, if anything, the problem, you know, is going to be under here. It's just Murphy's Law. So I was cleaning and whatnot, and then I discovered this just from a visual inspection. You see these connections with these little bridges through here, and they're just a wire connection. Every single one of them, you can see that movement. Every single one of the joints is cracked. But only this side, by the look of it. I cannot see that the other side is cracked at all. I'm just going to get my torch and just have a quick closer look. Yeah, see, every single one of those joints on this side is mechanically sound. But these, every single one of them are broken or crusty looking. So there you go. That may very well be the only problem. I hope it is, because it makes perfect sense. This end of the board under here, just zoom out a bit. Under this part of the board, the potentiometers are for the balance and treble, the bass and treble. And I guess this board does see a bit of movement, even though the potentiometers were both mechanically locked into the front fascia panel. It's still probably provided enough force over time to crack these solder joints. I'm not too sure. It is obvious that that could be the case. No other item that's not a rigid connection, because these cables and where their connectors connect to the board, there's no problems from breaking. I guess you could say that these wire links across here are rigid connections, and over time they just didn't give enough and crack these solder joints. So fairly easy fix. We'll get back on the soldering iron and we'll take all the old solder off and reflow each one, and hopefully, fingers crossed, that's fixed our problem. So a little update, I have touched up those solder joints again. So I took the fresh solder off, refluxed and resoldered them. They seem to come back a bit better. I'm just in the middle of cleaning off the flux. So what I've done is the other side here, these joints on the other side of the links here, I've taken all the solder off as well, because what I'm planning on doing is reassembling this part of the board. And to do that, I've got to put this shield back down, and I won't be able to get to this side of the board as far as the joints are concerned. My mind is sort of leaning towards, if we leave these unsoldered for the time being, reassemble the board, then the wire links will sit in their natural state without being under tension or compression or whatnot, and putting any strain on the solder joints. Either side, doesn't really matter. So I just want to rule that out, and I'll put all the screws back in, fasten everything back down, and then the last thing, resolder those joints on that side. And hopefully that's going to put them in a neutral state. Okay guys, I think I'm going to leave the video there. It's getting a little bit too long. I will release part 3 where we show the actual testing of this amplifier, providing we have no more problems. Hopefully then we can close out this little series of the $1 eBay find for this amplifier. So if you like my content and you want to see more of my stuff, please subscribe. I am aiming for 1,000 subs by the end of the year. So it would mean a lot to me if you hit that subscribe button, click the bell icon so you get notified of new videos, and hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.